There is a saying, a ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are for. What are they actually for? Well, we're going to talk about that. Thanks for joining us here on Aspire to Retire with Ralph Short, Tim Short, and Scott Earhart of Welcome Home Financial Partners. You can find them online, find out more about them, schedule a time to speak with them, welcomehomefp.com. Made it real easy for you. You can click on the link right there in the podcast description, take you right to the page, find out more about them, see their beautiful faces, and schedule a time. My name is Chris Vaughn, and I'm pleased to be joined with Ralph Short, Tim Short, and Scott Earhart. Gentlemen, glad to be with you as always. How you doing?
Beautiful faces, huh?
I appreciate that lie. We appreciate that lie, Chris.
We're doing well.
So that's why we're on podcasts and not TV, right?
No, you guys are on TV as well. I think you've got a great message, and you do have great faces out there. But this isn't. This episode is not going to be me just buttering you guys up for the entirety. We can do another episode with that later on if you want to. But this is about hopefully getting people feeling more confident about their retirement outlook. And there is a concern that is out there, and that is a recession, the looming threat of that. And people that are afraid of a recession and a market crash, they're keeping cash on the sidelines. And JP Morgan's Bill Eigen tells CNBC, quite honestly, that's maybe not a bad move.
This whole mantra of cash is trash just makes me laugh. Do you know the 5-year return on the Barclays Aggregate Index, which is the S&P 500 of bonds, is negative? You've lost money in the bond market for 5 years. That means you lost your entire coupon and some of your principal. And yet people keep piling into this stuff. You know what the single best performing asset class is among traditional fixed income asset classes over the last 5 years? Cash.
But here's the thing when it comes to cash is that, inflation being what it is, the buying power of that dollar diminishes. So even if it doesn't quote unquote lose money in the market, it is still losing a bit of that buying power. And when it comes to interest rates, the latest prediction is that the Fed's not going to start cutting those rates until later in the year, much later than we had anticipated heading into 2024. Are you telling clients with cash right now to enjoy the favorable rates for now, or is there a better place for them to be, putting their money?
Oh, it's a good question, and I understand what Bill Eigen's saying there. If you're comparing a cash fund directly to a bond fund, yeah, you're doing better in cash over the last few years. I mean, there's always a place in a retirement portfolio for cash assets. I mean, cash is going to give you liquidity, and one thing we talk to everyone about is you do need to have that liquid emergency fund. Now, do you need to have more than your emergency fund in cash? I don't think so. I mean, there are, protected growth options out there where you can get significantly higher rates and higher earning potential than a cash position and still have the downside protection that cash offers. I think a lot of consumers lean towards a cash investment because they're afraid of, to the core of the question, they're afraid of a recession, they're afraid of a downturn, they're afraid of an event happening that would, take the valuation down. Well, there are some great solutions available out there that are going to give you more upside, but that exact same protection. That being said, there is a place for cash. So we definitely don't advise anybody, or at least I don't, to, not have an emergency fund, not have something set off to the side where they can wrap their arms around it within, 24 hours should, a big hailstorm happen and you need a new roof or something of that nature. But there are a lot of options out there to give you the protection you desire, but still give you quite an upside.
And I would say to most people that emergency fund that we talk about, there is no 3 to 6 months. It depends on what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. I have people that I talk to that don't have enough emergency funds, and we explain to them why they need that. But 3 to 6 months is kind of a normal situation. But I've got people that talk to me about 2 to 3 years, maybe even more, because they feel more comfortable if they got a large sum of money. But they need to realize that they're probably not going to earn as much in that as they could in other investments. But guess what? It's all dependent upon what you're trying to do and your comfort.
Yeah, and right now rates are higher than they've been in years previous, the last few years. So you can take advantage of some of that, like Ralph's talking about, having some liquid funds in there, 3, 6 months, a year, 2 years. The one thing you don't want to do, and we see this quite a bit, is there's people with $500,000 sitting in the bank that's not really accomplishing a whole lot. If you're making 4 or 5% right now, okay, you're making 4 or 5% right now, but as soon as the Fed start cutting rates, the banks are going to follow suit. So you've got to be on the lookout for that. So why not, while rates are high, get into something that's more long term, where you can lock in, higher rates for a longer term period, because we don't know when these rates are going to fall, but probably by the end of this year, if not maybe the beginning of next year. So it's all about how much you can get now is what people are focused in on, except for what's in the future. So if you can get something locked in with higher rates for a longer term period, that's going to outperform any money in the bank now.
To a lot of people, if they got a large sum of money in the bank, check and see what they're earning on it. Because guess what? I don't think the bankers are calling you and say, hey, your account that is earning 0.005 with me right now could earn up to 4% if you switch over. I don't believe most people are hearing that kind of conversation. Would you agree, Scott?
I mean, I'm not trying to knock banking and banking professionals here, but no, I mean, the bank makes more money when they are allowing clients to stay in lower yield accounts. And I mean, I think that's the difference between a banking professional and a retirement professional. It's our job to make sure that we are in constant contact with our clients. Hey, we've got this option. Hey, your account's doing this. Hey, if we took a look at this, we might have some better earning potential. That's the exact difference. We work for the client. We don't work for the institution. And I think that's something that a lot of consumers don't differentiate between. That is probably what makes us, I'm going to be mean, makes us better.
So what I would also say to most people is take responsibility for your own action. Don't wait on somebody else to sit there and tell you what you need to do. Think about where you are, what you're trying to do. Get help, because there are people out here that will help you accomplish your goals.
Again, the people at the bank and the people, at these big brokerage houses, they're probably not going to call you up and tell you, quite frankly, you could be doing better here. That is on you, but you don't have to do it yourself. As we say in previous episodes, this isn't necessarily a DIY thing. If you want to do that in your retirement, that is fine. But there's also nothing wrong with having a second set of eyes on your plan if there is a way to make your money work harder for you. That money that you've got set aside in emergency funds, no one knows when an emergency is going to happen, first and foremost. And typically, in my experience, they happen not just once, but multiple times. Going on vacation is not an emergency. That is not what those are for. But if there is a way to make sure that money can continue to grow a little bit so that the buying power of it doesn't diminish over time, the fund that you had set aside 5 years ago, make sure that is still going to be viable to take care of that new roof or a set of tires or what have you, is really what it's all about. So taking a look at the interest rates and being able to say, yes, for the longer term, I can afford to put this much aside, but also I'm going to need something a little bit more immediate. It is about thinking of your money in not just the total balance of it, but in different stages, because you're not going to need it all at once, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think some of the viewers might argue that a vacation is not an emergency, but I agree with you. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, you need to really take a look at, inflation a few years back was at over 9%, right? So if the bank was paying you 2% or 4%, what does that mean for your money? Like you said before, it erodes your principal. So, or erodes your buying power. And that's what's important, is because that's what money does, is it purchases things, right? Not happiness, but it could purchase your vacation, your groceries, whatever it looks like. So if you've got $500,000 in the bank, if inflation's up higher than what your interest rate is at the bank, then you're actually losing your buying power. And that's important. And most people think, well, hey, it's safe, it's in the bank. That's not true, because if your buying power is going down, what does that look like?
Did you just say purchase an emergency vacation?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I've had days at work where I said, I need to get out of here. So it does seem like an emergency.
You work with us.
No,
vacation.
sorry.
I got you.
Present company excluded. I want to go and get that out of the way. But, there are times, but it is knowing what constitutes an emergency, what doesn't, what constitutes needing money accessible as soon as possible and what doesn't. Maybe you like having that giant balance, in your checking account. I've never had that, so I can't really relate. But, if there's a reason you've got $500,000 in your bank, so be it. It is ultimately, as you guys say so often, going to come down to what you feel comfortable with, what you feel confident about, because it is your plan at the end of the day, whether it is that 3-month emergency fund, whether it is 1 to 2 years of living expenses, but it is making sure that it is something that is, to your comfort level and also sustainable, and having it customized for you. That is what you guys do with the customized retirement roadmap that you do with clients. How do you get to where you want to be in retirement? We're all going to start in different locations. The route is going to be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, getting to that comfortable retirement and being able to stay there, hopefully, unless, as we say so often, you want to go back out of a desire to and out of a necessity. That is where having that roadmap comes into play, and that all starts with reaching out to the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners. WelcomeHomeFP.com is the website. Again, You can click on the link right there in the podcast description. I said it at the beginning. I'm going to say it again. Find out more about the guys. See their handsome faces and set up that time. Begin that conversation. WelcomeHomeFP.com. Want to thank you for joining us here on Aspire to Retire with Ralph Short, Tim Short, and Scott Earhart. Hope you have a great day ahead of you. Gentlemen, hope you have a great day as well. Thanks so much for taking time to spend with the listeners. And as we wrap up, want to leave you with the final word.
All right. Thanks, Chris. So we want to thank the viewers for listening. And no, I'm not going to do another shameless plug of handsome faces. But if this does sound like you know, if you've got a lot of money in the bank and you feel like things could be working for you a little bit better, give us a call. We'd love the opportunity to sit down with you in the office and create your own retirement roadmap. So give us a call, and thanks again for listening.
All content is for information purposes only. It is not intended to provide any tax or legal advice or provide the basis for any financial decision, nor is it intended to be a projection of current or future performance or indication or future results. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Welcome Home Financial Partners and Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC. The information contained in this material has been derived from sources believed to be reliable, but is not guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness and does not purport to a complete analysis of the materials discussed. All information and ideas should be discussed in detail with your individual advisor prior to the implementation. Each individual investor's situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstance. Advisor services are offered by Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Virginia. Being registered as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Insurance products and services are offered through WPI Holding, Virginia Insurance License Number 138509, an affiliated company. The information contained herein should in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell or offer to sell advisory services to any resident of any state other than the state of Virginia or where otherwise legally permitted. Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC, and Welcome Home Financial Partners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency.